COVID.
Yes.
And I had to get a color-coded bracelet.
Yes, like the one I'm wearing.
Yes, and you know who else does that? It's the Mexican cartel.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, and let's go, Brandon.
Okay, hello. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today is Friday, July the 29th. I cannot believe we are just flying through this year. Friday the 29th, you are listening to Sheena Rodriguez with the Secure the Border podcast. Please like and share. Get this information out there. We are currently streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Getter, YouTube, Twitch, Patriot TV Live. This will be uploaded a little later to Brighteon Espanol. And also, of course, it'll also be available on our website, securetheborder.us, under the podcast tab. And then on all of the podcast streaming services as well shortly after we are done with the live version, which you guys can find on iHeart, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play, or Google Podcast. I don't know. It's everywhere. It's pretty much everywhere. Audible. So just go there and like and share it with your friends. Today, I am really excited. I'm so thankful to have the great Sheriff Doc Wigington with us. He is from Throckmorton County. And Sheriff, I met you a while back. It feels like forever ago because this journey has just been, it's been a journey. It feels like forever ago. We met down there actually at the Del Rio Border Security Summit. About last June, I believe it was. It was sometime.
It's been a minute, I'll tell you. It's been a long time and a long fight, and I think both of us are tired, but we're not tired of fighting. I'll tell you that.
Amen to that. And I follow you. I follow Throckmorton County. You're actually not too terribly far away from where I live here in Tarrant County. And one of the things that we're trying to accomplish here with Secure the Border and Alliance for a Safe Texas is to spread the awareness of how the border crisis. Number one, these issues are not new. What is new is the massive explosion of it, and the problems are just ravaging all of Texas. We titled this "Every Town is a Border Town" because it literally is. I want the viewers to know Throckmorton County isn't too far away from where I live. It's in central North Texas. And we actually did an event a while back too over there in San Angelo. And I know that was, they're getting slammed there too. San Angelo, Midland, everywhere. And so I'm so thankful. I know that you just come back from the Sheriff's Association conference, actually up here in Fort Worth. I know you've got a busy schedule. So thank you so much for coming on today. If you will tell just a little bit about yourself.
Well, like I said, I've been in office since 2017 here in Throckmorton, and since the border situation became a crisis, and it has just gone from being on the border to just expanding like wildfire all over the state of Texas and all over the United States. What we're dealing with in Throckmorton County is the same situation that is happening all across of Texas. We're seeing a surge of narcotics. We're seeing a surge of the arrest and the trafficking that comes through. In Young County, they just got some right next to us, some arrest day before, I guess, a few days ago. But it's just the crime that's happening on the border and the situations. Now, we're not having the bodies and things like that that are on the borders, but we're getting the influx and a lot of the narcotics trafficking, our narcotics arrests have gone up. I would say 1,000% going up and down the highway, and we just are just dealing with that on a weekly basis. And the thing about rural Texas is that we just don't have a lot of people. We keep losing people to other agencies that pay higher. We work a lot of hours. I work 6 12-hour days. I try to take off Sunday, but I'm still on call. But I get out there with my guys, and I work patrol. I make traffic stops. I answer calls just like they do. And we're down a couple of deputies right now, and so that puts a lot of extra effort on and work on myself and the guys that we have. And it's a lot of time away from family, and it's what we have to do to keep this county safe and to keep Texas safe. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And in talking with some of the sheriffs at the border sheriffs at the conferences, that they're doing a for the resources they have, and they're doing all that they can, but the surge and the amount of people that are just streaming across that border is just overwhelming to the amount of forces that the counties can provide. It's just amazing, when you have deputies that are rounding up 1,200 people at a time, and then you turn them over to Customs and Border, and they give them a citation and take them to processing, and then they're on their way. I mean, it's kind of disheartening for these guys of, hey, why aren't we catching these guys if they're just going to turn them loose? I mean, it's just you've got to have a special type of person that's willing to go out there and do it every day and night, knowing that you're not going to get any backup from the federal government. You're not going to get any support, at all, and they're going to look at you like you're doing it for nothing. And it's just a shame that we have an administration and a president that won't step up and do his job and defend the Texas border as it's set out in the Constitution. And that's just, it's a dereliction of his duty. It's a dereliction of the vice president of her duty. She's supposed to be the border czar. I don't think she could point out the border if you asked her to point it out on a map. I mean, but it's just, she went to El Paso. Well, that's not where the action is, I mean, and now in El Paso, now, they had stuff pretty much under control on their crossings, but now they're even asking for assistance because they've become overwhelmed.
And as a matter of fact, to your point, we got some information, from 2 current agents over there that El Paso is now starting to process. This is just what they're processing, 1,000 a day in El Paso. Right. And for people who don't understand, like you said, they have different types of issues typically. And of course, the type of people that are coming over in the El Paso sector, it causes a problem, but it's not, they don't typically see the numbers that the RGV and that now the Del Rio sector see. And now it's a massive influx everywhere, including El Paso.
And it's not, and a lot of people try to turn this into some type of race issue and something that's ridiculous like that. Well, we have a citizen here that has a family member that is on the border that is with the Texas Guard, and they rounded up. They were Russian nationals. They weren't from any South American country. They weren't from Mexico. They were from Russia, and there was like 120 of them. I mean, tell me, that is a small invasion force. They were all males. They were from age 18 to 24. That is not someone that is, like you see on the news, the women and children seeking refuge. That's not what that's all about. I mean, I've been to the border a few times, and I've encountered very few women and children, and the people that have been captured. I hate to use the word captured, but I would say
apprehended.
But But if you want to say captured, if you want to you look at them as an invasion, then they would be captured, as in it'd be combatants. But I mean, it's just it is the humanitarian crisis is down there with the killings and the rapes and the children that are being left alone. I mean, it is remarkable that these counties on the border and these sheriffs that are doing their job, that they're able to function, and they're just not, just saying, just not throwing their hands up. I give it to them every day, and I take my hat off and give them credit for going to work every day, because they have a hard job and they're doing the best of their ability with the resources that they're allowed, that they have, and what they can do under the Texas law. And that is the one thing, is that under the Texas Constitution, they're doing it to the T. Now, like I said, on the other hand, the federal administration, the federal government, they're not doing anything. I don't even really know why they're down there. They're in the way.
It's honestly, and this is my opinion, it's treasonous. I've seen it with my own two eyes everywhere, from the RGV, Roma, La Jolla, up through the Del Rio sector and Eagle Pass, Kinney County, Del Rio, then up there to El Paso, and hopefully we'll be making my way up there towards Terrell County. The federal government, in my opinion, is committing treason. They are not following the laws, and the impacts of it are reaching. And that's the thing, is that that while the South Texas and our southern sovereign state border is just being ravaged, they're not staying there. These the illegal aliens that are coming over, they're not staying in Kinney County. They're not staying in Roma or La Jolla. The federal government is aiding and abetting and spreading them throughout Texas and throughout the United States. And it's not just the sheer number of apprehensions that they're getting. It's all the ones that they never encounter, not just the gotaways, the ones that they never encounter. And then, there's so much complexity to this. But to go back to your county, what is the population of Throckmorton County? I looked it up, what's the population?
It's just a little bit under 2,000. But we have 915 square miles. We have U.S. Highway 380, which goes from border to border through Texas. We have U.S. 283, which is border to border, that run right through the center of our county. We have drugs going north and east, and money going south and west. And that's what we have. And they use the back roads in rural counties, and don't use the interstates because they're heavily patrolled, or used to be, and everybody's tied up now. But they use the back roads, go through rural counties in a hope to avoid detection, because it's easier, because a lot of these counties that you're going to go through, they don't have a lot of law enforcement. They're sure not going to have 5 or 10 interdiction units working a stretch of highway. They're not going to, it's going to be easier for them to get through and get to their destination. But going back, I want to go back to what you were saying about treason, is that one thing that's hard about treason is that an act of treason is aiding an enemy of the United States. Okay, but one thing about that is that right now the enemy that we're dealing with is the cartels. And the cartels are classified as a criminal organization, and that's hard to say that that's an enemy of the United States, being a criminal organization. Now, I for years have been advocating that the cartels be classified as a terrorist organization and not a criminal organization. That way, the rules of engagement can change against these cartels. And that way, you can say that if they are aiding these cartels, then it could possibly be, in certain situations, it could be considered treason. But until you have a designated enemy that someone is going to help against the United States, it's going to be hard to come with a treason charge. But I've advocated for years that the cartels need to be classified as terrorist organizations, not criminal organizations, because we can take the fight to them that way, like we did with Pablo Escobar in the 1980s. And they are even though they may be separate individual cartels, they are one criminal or one terrorist organization that commits crimes. They commit killings, and they are not advantageous to the United States in one way or another.
And how, and obviously the cartel is a major factor in the drug trafficking, in the human and sex trafficking as well, that impacts every corner. You said something earlier about the major highways that kind of allow, if you will, create the capability of Throckmorton County, a small north central, county in Texas, a perfect drive-through, if you will, because they again they're not staying along the border. And I love the way that you said that, about, and I know so many people have been trying to advocate as well, about designating the cartel as exactly what they are, because oh boy, if people only knew how bad it really was and how much of a threat that they are to your families. If they only knew, and that's what we're hoping to shed some light on. But, I guess right now too, like with this massive influx, like what would you say is something right now, like, do you think that Texas, because it has to be legal, it has to be constitutional, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that I've kind of thrown out there and that I'm going to be pushing for, as well, is a designation of domestic terrorist here in the state of Texas, because the reality is that they live everywhere, in every corner of Texas, in every corner of the United States. And I think, like, in the same thing, even with the federal designation, what is the benefit to that? Could you explain for a moment, like, it's not just the designation, but it also allows for certain, like, extra legal things, right, that would arm the law enforcement agencies, that would arm the sheriff's departments like yourself, with extra things that they could do than to go after them more aggressively. Is that correct?
If they were deemed terrorists?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you bring in the Patriot Act and you bring in all the funds of the federal government under that. I mean, there's multiple billions of dollars that could be put towards that effort, because, I mean, we're shipping billions of dollars over to Ukraine right now to secure their borders and to fight the spread of whatever they say this week. But we need to send that money to our border and secure ours first, in my belief. But I will say this, that, I mean, if you open up and declare them as a terrorist organization, the amount of money that can be from the federal government, if you get the federal government that will act to defend the border, that's the main thing. If you get a president in there that will say, you know what, enough's enough, and I'm going to defend the citizens of this United States that I've sworn to protect, then you open up the coffers of that money set aside to fight terrorism, and that money goes towards securing that border, and there is a lot of money for that effort around the world.
To be able to, it allows, and I think that's the importance of it, because people may hear that, declaring them as a terrorist organization or as terrorist, but they may not maybe understand, like, why that's important, why that official, declaration, if you will, for lack of better words. I'm sure that there's much better terminology for that, but of declaring them as such, it grants the authorities, it grants the funding, it triggers, like you said, the Patriot Act, but other agencies to begin getting involved in. One of the things that we hear, especially with the failed narco states, over there in Mexico, the Mexican army can't even compete. with a lot of
Oh,
the
no.
cartel that's down there.
No.
And it really is a full-fledged war there. The war, they really are very well funded. It's a strategic operation. They in other words, this isn't just some ragtag group of individuals. They're
No.
ruthless and they know what
No.
they're doing.
No, this isn't the cartel of watching Scarface, and on TV from the this is if you go and you can YouTube up and look up the Zetas organization. At one time, every one of they had multiple armored vehicles. I mean, multiple MRAPs. I mean, they are a very, very formidable group with a high capacity to wage war. I mean. That it's not a bunch of guys driving around in Jeeps with a M60 mounted on the crossbar. It is a well organized machine down there, and it's not something that I think people get an idea of. It's just some guys dealing drugs on the corner. This is a international business in organizations. This is not something that is just your neighborhood dealer down on the corner at night, standing under the street light selling dime bags to somebody that passes by. These organizations. They're not selling kilos. They're selling like pallets worth of narcotics and fentanyl and methamphetamine and things. I mean, this is not something that, we're talking billions and billions of dollars that are being made by them illegally.
And for every single person that we see, when we say that it's a humanitarian crisis as well, every single person that we see coming over that border is directly benefiting the cartel. And so that's the other angle to it, that everyone wants to say that, like you were touched upon earlier, that it's it's the poor migrants. Well, but there's so much more to this that people really need to start getting a grasp of.
And the migrants that come over, I believe you've touched on before the wristbands, and there's different colors of wristbands, and that is different amounts of money that they owe the cartels, that they have to work off when they get into the United States. So when they get processed, and then they get released into, like there was 3 or 4 plane loads that were released into Abilene not too long ago. So when those migrants are released into Abilene and they owe the cartel that amount of money, well, how are they going to pay that back? Well, they're going to commit burglaries. They're going to start selling drugs. They're going to steal this. They're going to. They may actually have to commit a homicide. You don't know, but they're indebted to these cartels for getting them over here. Maybe they didn't. They didn't have the money to pay for the trip to get across the river, because the cartel is the one that controls that passage across that river, no doubt about it. No one crosses there without paying someone from the cartel. And if on the other side of the river, there is just stacks and stacks and stacks of identifications from people that have just thrown them down and just gotten rid of them, because why? It's easier to get processed into the United States if you don't have any identification and they don't know where you come from. So there's just piles of IDs from every different country, and it's easier to get in if you have a child. So sometimes children are just picked up and taken across, and once they get processed in, well, the child is just discarded because it's not their kid. They just used them to get across and get processed. And so the child's just out there just, on their own, or sold back to the cartel and used again and again and again to get someone across. And people don't understand that this is not families coming here to open up stores to integrate into the American lifestyle, and some may be a small percentage, but a lot of them are just employees of the cartel. That's what they are.
And to to that point, that's why it's just so hard. But there was a case just in Round Rock not too long ago, of a burglary case where the woman broke in, and then when she was picked up, that was the reason. She said, I have a debt to pay. It is perpetual bondage. We talk about this all the time, and a lot of that identification is on our side of the river. I've collected quite a lot of it. I have a whole bin full, unfortunately, because there's a lot of information on there, and not very many of them are from Mexico either. They're exactly like you said, from Russia. I've seen people from China coming over with my own two eyes in Laredo, Afghanistan, just so from Georgia. I mean, all over. And then again, they're not staying there along the border. They're coming to our towns, and it's not just the individuals. It's not just the people. It is also the gangs, the big gang members, and the drugs. And especially the drugs is a big thing for your area. Now, let me ask you this, and I want to get into one of the public service announcements that you guys had put out back on July the 18th. It was a group effort with DPS of Wichita Falls and Baylor County, and it looks like methamphetamines were picked up. Let's see here. I'm trying to, I don't want to like word it word for word, but it was narcotics trafficking and multiple possessions of controlled substance arrest. You were advised on the case since December of 2021. And of course, DHS was also involved, CBP, and again, how far, really quick to kind of set the stage, how far is Throckmorton County from the border? Just really quick.
It's about 8 hours. About
an 8-hour drive.
Yes.
Okay. So then, can you give a little bit more on like this kind of case?
Okay, I started that investigation in, like I said, December of 2021, and it progressed rather rapidly for a little bit, and it just started rolling, and it soon turned into more than just in Throckmorton County. It was went into the neighboring counties, and then other neighboring counties and other neighboring counties, and it involved methamphetamine trafficking, and then as we kept going, it went on into human trafficking and human smuggling. And by the time that the investigation was completed, which we had the grand jury, I believe earlier this month, we had arrest and seizures from Wilbarger County, which is up near the Oklahoma border, all the way to Del Rio, and span that distance from one end of the state to the other, and involved seizing like multiple 14 to 15 kilos of liquid methamphetamine at a time, multiple arrests, rescuing people from human trafficking and sex trafficking. But it started in a small county like Throckmorton, just on a delivery and just a local guy, and just kept going and going and going, and just I just kept going and going until I found the end of it. I wasn't going to let it to just be. Criminals don't respect county lines, all right, and they don't respect jurisdictional lines. And I was going to follow this until I could find the end of it. And so when we got to the Texas border, I thought, well, I might better let those guys go over there that can actually go over the border. I've kind of lost authority over there. But it was great cooperation between CID in Wichita Falls out of DPS and with CPB and with Homeland. And we all cooperated together and shared information. And I think it was about 30 to 40 arrests that we made. And it was a very elaborate and long investigation, but I feel it was worth it. And if I'm sure there'll be someone else that'll take their spot, but I'm sure that I'll be right there to knock them down too.
That started with one person, one case, and that's like pulling that string, and it just keeps going and going and getting longer and longer. And that also just illustrates exactly what we're talking about, that every single town truly is a border town. It is all like there's that massive connection It's just wow, wow. And one of the things too that I kind of wanted to touch on, and you kind of, I mean, we kind of touched on it, if you will. When we talk about the strain to the rural county areas, to every county, every law enforcement, every sheriff's office and PD's office throughout the state, that this border invasion has inflicted, is the lack of resources and lack of people to be able to work these counties. One of the things that I realized very quickly, and it made sense, and I say this because I'm not anyone special. I'm just a homeschooling mom, right? That's like literally just like God said go, and I went, and then here we are. And it's kind of morphed into all these things. But one of the things that I realized very quickly too is how much the rural counties really do, and I'm in a metroplex area too. So how much the rural counties really do depend on DPS forces. And I think that one of the things that maybe many people may not think about, as well, that I caught on very early on, was that as the state of Texas has had to step up in so many ways to do what the federal government refuses to do, it also puts other areas like Throckmorton County, makes it even more vulnerable, because now DPS is having to pull back and the forces are having to go down there to the immediate border, and aid with that, and it leaves your area even more vulnerable when you guys really do depend on that assistance, as well.
It's definitely hard. I mean, especially when they were deploying like every 2 weeks in this region here. I mean, there was sometimes that if we had a fatality crash or a bad crash, or if we needed backup, that backup's 90 miles away, because that just happened to be the county. We have several counties that are in this particular region that Throckmorton is covered by, and that may happen to be where that trooper is at that day, because the rest of them are on the border. And so if you've got someone at gunpoint, or if you're needing backup or fighting somebody on the ground, you better be able to hold your own for 90 minutes, because that's how long it's going to take for backup to get there. And it's not any fault of theirs. I mean, they have to follow orders, and they have a job to do at the direction of the governor of Texas, and it does leave a void in rural Texas. There are some days here still that I am the only one in the county. I mean, that I am completely by myself. I mean, no one is here other than me, and so that is it's stressful, knowing that for those days, say it's 2 days, for 48 hours, you're the only one that's going to be here. You can call for help, but there's not going to be anyone. But you also have to know that you've got to do whatever you've got to do to go home at the end of the night. And but one thing that you realize is that in rural Texas, is that we work a lot alone anyway, and so a lot of us have adapted to being by ourselves a lot, because our counties are so big, and we don't have a lot of personnel that we have adapted to working by ourselves anyway. It's not like a city where if you call for backup, 12 guys show up to help you. I mean, that's never going to happen in rural Texas. But the DPS, when they were being deployed to, and the Parks and Wildlife, Texas Parks and Wildlife, they were being deployed as well. And it put a strain on rural Texas. I will tell you that 100% it did. And but the thing about out here is that you've got a grit in people out in rural Texas that we're going to manage, and we're going to get by, and we'll figure out how to deal with it. And that's exactly what we did.
Salt of the earth kind of people, and I just, these are my kind of people. I'm hoping to make it out there to your area, and hopefully get to come see y'all's beautiful courthouse, and yeah, maybe stop by your office. But I mean, I say that too because it just shows once again how all of Texas really is impacted at no fault, really, truly, and honestly, like you said, of our own. I mean, DPS has a job to do, but it shows, and they're doing it, just like you're doing your job, just like so many other sheriffs and police chiefs are doing their jobs. They're doing the absolute best that they can with the circumstances that they're given. And it's so, but it's just one other way that even hundreds, 8 hours away from the border, it all over the place. Every small county is feeling this impact, where now you still have the regular crime, right? The everyday regular crime that you got to deal with. But then on top of that, now we've got the escalating problems, that the border crisis brings along with it. And then in addition to that, we're so strapped. Every agency is strapped. There's not enough manpower. There's just, everyone is literally doing the best that they can, and every area of Texas is directly impacted in some way, shape, or form.
Right. And then you want to, with the upcoming legislative session, you don't know what new laws are going to come out that and mandates that we'll have to look at, and we've talked about gun confiscation before and how I feel about that,
and I wanted to get into that. I figured that this was a good segue to get into that. If I can kind of because this is one of the things, and I shared that post, right now, especially out of the it's actually out of the red flag laws that were coming out of DC, and Texas has a little bit more of a buffer from some of the legislation that was put into place a while back. But, we need the constitutional sheriffs to take a stand. And your office put out a public service announcement back on June 21st. I'm going to read, I guess, just a little bit of it here. And you said halfway through, I am not a federal agent, and by law cannot enforce federal laws or mandates. I am the duly elected sheriff of Throckmorton County in the state of Texas. The sheriff is the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the county they are elected to, and no one is higher according to the Constitution. So to clarify my position, I will protect the God-given rights of the citizens of Throckmorton County, state of Texas, to possess a firearm as stated in Article 1, Section 23 of the Texas Constitution. Every citizen shall have the right to keep and bear arms in the lawful defense of himself or the state. I will do this even if it cost me my freedom and even if it cost my life. And I have sworn an oath to not only the citizens of Throckmorton County, the citizens of Texas in the United States Constitution, but to the Lord Almighty, to protect and defend the rights of the citizens. I will do this even if standing alone, because I am willing to stand for the citizens' rights, and hopefully the citizens are willing to stand with me, as their rights are also my rights. And so, and that's just half of it. I mean, it's this public. I mean, I literally cried because I'm like, every single sheriff in the state of the great state of Texas should be making similar statements, because you are the highest ranking in your county, and you are that buffer that we sorely need, and at a time when everything that we've just talked about, the rising drug rates, the crime, all the resources are strapped, when literally, like in your county with what we just talked about, you've got the salt of the earth people that if help is not any time anywhere near away, 90 minutes away, they're left to defend for themselves. And then you got the federal government trying to say, well, we're going to go ahead and take away your right to defend yourself. And you took that hard stance. I will be quiet and let you speak on this, because it's amazing.
And that came about because I had a lot of citizens asking me about, there was talk about President Biden putting in some, new restrictions on AR-15s and other rifle types like that, and And then they started talking about red flag laws. Well, first I'm going to clarify my stance on red flag laws. They are 100% in my mind unconstitutional. You cannot deprive a person of property or freedom without due process. And we had this discussion with some sheriffs down at the conference. You show me in the penal code where it is against the law for someone to be, for lack of a better word, crazy. It's not in there, so it's not against the law for someone that has mental issues to possess a firearm. Now, it may not, but now if they're out in the roadway and they're swinging it around a gun, that's another offense. That's reckless conduct. That's already an offense. But just because someone may say something about someone that guy's a little off or that person's a little, you're opening up a can of worms that just can't be opened. Pandora's box, so to speak. You can have ex-wives, ex-girlfriends, ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends, you can have angry neighbors saying all sorts of things about people. You can have people that are on one side of the aisle or the other talking about the other side of the aisle. And where does it stop? I mean, yeah, it's say, well, that guy's got a stockpile of weapons and ammunition. So what? Where does it say that in the Constitution or the law that he can't? It doesn't. All right. What law is he breaking? He's not. Why should anybody be able to go in there and deprive him of his property without due process? They can't. That's why red flag laws, in my opinion, and if you just read the Constitution, you'll come to the same conclusion that, it's unconstitutional, all of them. I mean, no matter how you word them, 100% unconstitutional. And they'll say, well, it's for the greater good. Well, I believe they also said that, and, Stalin said that, Hitler said that, Mao said that. A lot of people said, dictators said, we're doing this for the greater good. Well, the greater good isn't always good for everyone. And if you're violating someone's constitutional rights just because of you may be safer, or that you think that guy's dangerous, well, for one, he has to commit a crime, all right? And he has to be tried in court by a jury of his peers and be convicted. And then if he becomes a felon, then he cannot possess a firearm. Then we have an offense that's in the penal code of the state of Texas. But just saying that this guy may be dangerous, I know a lot of dangerous people that wouldn't hurt a fly, but I say dangerous because, they jump motorcycles. that's dangerous to me. Anybody that rides a bronc to me is dangerous because I'm not getting on that thing. But bull riders, But I'll tell you, as far as that, that is, I believe, is unconstitutional. Now defending my citizens here, you are 100% correct. I will, if it costs me my freedom or my life, I will defend their right to possess a firearm or any other constitutional right. And I've already told my DA, if any federal agent comes to Throckmorton County uninvited, and attempts to confiscate a firearm, I'm going to arrest them for theft of a firearm. And if they go into a residence, I'm going to arrest them for burglary of a habitation. And we'll just see where that goes from there. But I'll tell you right now that this is not negotiable. This is not something I'm going to compromise on. This is the rights that are passed down. These are not rights given to you by the state. You have a right to defend yourself by nature. All right, you have a right to defend your family by nature. Do you think that in early times, when if a bear was attacking a family, you had to go ask the head chief of the tribe, hey, can I keep that bear from attacking my family? No, you did what you had to do. You have a right to defend yourself and your family against all things. These are not rights that are given to you by the government. These are rights that are given to you by the Lord above. And that's why that they are rights that cannot be taken away. You cannot take away a person's rights to defend themselves. That's why it says shall not be infringed. But the Texas law, the Texas Constitution, they worded it better. They said that a citizen of Texas has a right to possess a firearm in defense of their person or defense of their state. No other, that says right there, boom. point blank. Defends their person, defends the state. Point blank.
That's
I
great.
I go by the Texas Constitution. All right, I'm a Texas officer. All right, do not come in. I mean, and I don't think it will come to that. All right, because I believe that there are enough level-headed politicians that in Washington after November that will prevent that from happening. And I believe that there's enough level-headed politicians in 2024 that will prevent that from happening. But when the helm changes, we change hands. But I just think that it's kind of like I'll go back to the mask deal, with the wearing of the mask stuff. You need to wear a mask so I won't get sick. It's kind of like saying you need to go take an aspirin so your neighbor won't get a headache. It's kind of along the same thing. I mean, whatever, these red flag laws are just ridiculous when they brought them up. I mean, it's just another way to control the populace and keep the firearms down. But Texas is not going to allow that to happen. I mean,
well, and that's exactly why that's why you are such a breath of fresh air. And that's exactly why we need strong constitutional sheriffs, just like the great Sheriff Doc Wigington, to stand, because you are the last line of defense for your citizens.
Well, that's one thing that, as sheriffs, and constitutional sheriffs, we need to take back the power that a lot of sheriffs have given away. They've given away power to, whether it be to their commissioners, to their county judge, to the DPS, to the legislators, whoever. But they need to take that power and go and read the Constitution of Texas and find out what authority they truly do have. I mean, they are the top elected official in the county. Now, some county judges might not like to hear that, but you go and find out that they have the most power in the county, period. All right? Not a commissioner, not a judge, but a sheriff. All right? And other agencies, whether it be, DPS, whether it be, they are, the sheriff is it says the chief law enforcement officer within the county. So that means that there is no one higher within that county than the sheriff. There was a ruling sometime back, I believe, I can't remember the case number, that said even the sheriff has more power as a law enforcement officer than the president of the United States within the county that he is elected in, because the people in that county put him in that position. So the sheriffs of the state need to go and take back the power under the Constitution that they've given away, and read the Constitution and say, look, it's time for us to take a stand, and it's time for us to say, look, no more. And put your citizens' rights first, and know that these citizens that put you there, it is they put you in that position, and it is a privilege and an honor to be one of 254 in the state of Texas. One of 254. That's a very elite club.
Mm-hmm. And I want to just share the weekly Bible verse, because I think it's very applicable, because we have to be courageous. But then it's also incumbent then upon the citizens to also then rally behind our constitutional sheriffs, and support our law enforcement that are doing what they should be doing, like yourself. And I want to touch on that as we close, but I want to share the weekly Bible verse that my daughter chose. She chose 1 Corinthians 28:20, and that's another thing that your office puts out consistently, is Bible verses as well. And I love and appreciate that so much. And we need to put God back in every area in our schools, and I mean everywhere. But 1 Corinthians 28:20, be strong and courageous and do it. Like, just simply do it. Do not be afraid and do not be dismayed, for the Lord God is with you. He will not leave you or forsake you until all the work for the service of the house of the Lord is finished. And if that is not a strong Bible verse about having courage and about standing in the face, and when you said in your public statement, even if I stand alone, that's courage. That's courage. And so I just had to share. I wanted to go ahead and usually I save it for right at the end, but I just had to go ahead and just, because it is courageous. And thank you for serving the great citizens of Throckmorton County and the great citizens of Texas, because as you take your stand, you're also taking a stand for my family and our rights. And we also have a great, the Sheriff Wayborn is my sheriff. He's an amazing sheriff.
Very good guy.
Yes. So, I absolutely respect him and his office as well. And I had the pleasure of meeting him not too long ago, and I will stand by him because he has done some amazing things here, starting the 287G program, starting the human and sex trafficking task force over here. We need to rally behind our sheriffs and raise them up and stand behind them and make sure that we're voting in the right sheriffs, the right constitutional sheriffs, because it is a very powerful position, and that's not a duty to take lightly at all. But how can people follow you or your office, and then also how can we support not just like your citizens support you in Throckmorton County? I can't imagine why. I can just imagine. I've seen the response from your citizens on y'all's Facebook page. It looks like y'all have no shortage of love from your citizens. That's for sure. But for someone even like I'm an activist, right? How can we also support those constitutional sheriffs in offices like your own as well?
Well, of course, you can always follow our Facebook page. It's just Throckmorton County Sheriff's Office. And I would say, find out who your local sheriff is and schedule an appointment and just, kind of talk to them and find out if they're a constitutional sheriff. There is a organization called the Constitutional Sheriffs and Officers Association that you can go to, and there's a questionnaire on there that you can download or print that are questions that you can take to your local sheriff to see if they are a constitutional sheriff, which is a very good questionnaire. Another thing is that when your sheriff has something going on locally, whether it be a speaking event, go out, get involved in local government. Go to the commissioner meetings, go to the city council meetings, find out what's happening in your community. And the sheriff, don't be afraid to engage him, talk to him, really find out who your elected officials are and what their beliefs are. I mean, I say that there are some politicians, and I am not a politician by far in any way, shape, or form. There are two things I'm terrible at, and that is golf and politics, and I don't do either one of them anymore. But go out and find out on your elected officials. I say that there are some that they put on a facade when it comes to about 3 to 4 months before election, about who they present a facade of who they want them to be. They take on that you want this person to be that, so that's who they're going to be at that time. Well, the next person, they're going to be this. What you want to do is you want to observe those elected officials all year round and find out which ones are real and which ones are fake. I mean, and that's the thing is that, if they're not consistent all year round, day in, day out, you want to know who your people are, even if you've known them a long time, But I would say with your sheriff, go down, talk with them. and just make it a point that if there's a thing, an event that's going on in your county, go to it. You know, if your state rep comes to your county, go get involved. If your senator comes to your county, go get involved. All right, ask them questions. You know, and if they don't give you the answer that you want, say, hey, I love your answer, but that's not what the question I asked. You know, ask them the question again. I mean, you remember that, you know, everybody is elected, you know, and so they all have to get back in office. And so really, you don't be afraid to engage them and say, listen, that's not the question I asked, but ask the question. And you know, I have no problem. I mean, as you probably will see, I have no problem just saying what's exactly is on my mind. And you know, some people it rubs some people the wrong way, but you know, they chose to get rubbed the wrong way. If they got offended, they chose to be offended. You know, I don't say anything that is meant to be offensive. Sometimes people just take it that way, but you know, that's on them. I don't get offended by anything. I mean, anybody says to me whatsoever, I never get offended. My father told me a long time ago, if you get offended by what people say, you're giving someone control over you for just that split second, and never give someone control over you. And so I don't. And so I don't get offended by anything. If I do agree to disagree a lot, and I think that is an attribute that we have lost in conversation, that now people, when they disagree, they have to become mortal enemies and they, well, I'm defriending you. Well, I don't even know what that means, but okay, go ahead. But I mean, I just think that if you want to get involved with your county and you want to really make a difference, then you'll make the meetings and you'll find out, and you might even decide to throw your hat in the ring and run. You know, it takes a lot of prayer and it takes a lot of soul searching. But I'll tell you this, there are people, and I'm going to say this about, and there is I met and got to talk with him a lot this past week, and that's the sheriff of Zapata County. And I will tell you, that man, his family's been threatened by the cartels. Where they were nearly kidnapped. I mean, he is. He's trying to make a difference as much as he can. He goes to work every day. He is making a difference in the lives of the people that he's helping in the sex trafficking. And I will tell you right now that if you want to find out what's going on the border, this goes for anybody that may be listening in the legislation. You go to Zapata County. All right, you go to Zapata County and you find out the real. You find out the real where the cameras aren't. That's where the action. That is where the real heartbreak and the real tragedy is occurring in Zapata County. You go down there and you see those guys and those deputies that come to work every day, knowing that the next day is going to be exactly the same. You know, there's going to be bodies and there's going to be children floating and it's going to be terrible. And it's just going to be something that you're going to have to deal with your entire life. And my hat's off to them, and I have great respect for those guys because they do it. And it takes a special type of person to be in law enforcement, especially nowadays. And unfortunately, you know, there's not a lot of us old school guys left. And I'm going to end on this. And my wife knows that, unfortunately, in my life, it's God, duty, family. Because that's just the way it has to be right now. Because, you know, earlier in my life, you know, it was God, family, duty. But right now it has to be duty because we did just celebrate our 31st wedding anniversary. So,
Congratulations.
It was Wednesday, actually, and she understands that. But right now it has to be my allegiance to God, my allegiance to my duty, and then my family. Because this is such a crisis that I have to put everybody else's wants and needs in front of my wants and needs because the county and the state's needs are far greater than mine.
And I got to meet your lovely bride a while back as well. And God bless you and your family, your wife. the great citizens of Throckmorton County and every single sheriff and law enforcement officer that puts on that badge every single day, and our border patrol, that puts on that badge every single day, and they are just, it's a hard time. It is a very hard time, and everything is against them, and even just a simple thank you really does go a very long way. So I appreciate you. I know the viewers today, I know, are probably just so refreshed, like a breath of fresh air. So, and I know that you are just very, very busy, and I know that you guys just got back. So thank you very much for spending some of your time with us and going over how, Throckmorton County is directly impacted in the impact to our overall great state, and being also that voice for fellow sheriffs as well, sharing those stories that really a lot of people may not hear and may not realize. So thank you for everything that you are doing. God bless you.
Well, it was my pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you having me on. And I'm going to end in the same way I ended my speech at the sheriff's conference. Let's go, Brandon.
Yes. You are so great. You see, you're just so great. Well, I really hope that I get to make it up there sometime soon. I say up there, over there sometime soon. And hopefully get to see, your county. And I really hope that I get to do that soon. I'm putting that on my wish list. So I'm going to declare that it's going to happen. And I would love to. All over this great state. This journey has brought me all over this great state, and I've been able and blessed to get to know people like yourself. So thank you so very much. Please tell your wife we said hello. Thank you so much for everything.
Well, it was my pleasure, and it was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. You have a good night.
You too.
All right, guys. So that was a treasure. I have so much respect for Sheriff Doc Wigington. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. A few little quick things there. We just had, speaking of which, to piggytail off of the importance of what Sheriff Wigington was just talking about, we just put out a new action item, August 10th, down there in Eagle Pass. The Senate Border Security Committee hearing will be taking not just invited testimony, but most importantly, public testimony. So if you guys have a moment, please go to securetheborder.us. It's right at the top of the page. As a matter of fact, let me share that really quick. Go to securetheborder.us. Go to the Take Action tab. We have the social media, and of course, I don't know why it's not wanting to share. Okay, there we go. There we go. Go to securetheborder.us, go to the Take Action tab, and then you will see the social media flyer, the call to action. The Texas Senate Committee on Border Security will be hearing and accepting public testimony. It's going to be on August 10th at 8:30 a.m. at Eagle Pass International Center of Trade. So if you guys can please make it out there. If you are unable to attend and testify in person, we also have on the website, just right below that, we've done this a few times, where submit your personal impact story. I don't care where you live. Somewhere in Texas, if you live somewhere in Texas, you are being directly impacted. And so submit your personal testimony here. What we will do with this, like we've already got about 30 before that we print them out. We hand them in directly to the state legislators that are hearing anything border related. Done it to the Public Education Committee. I've done it to the Rural Affairs Committee on both the Senate and the House side. They want to hear from you. They need to hear from you. They work for you. So let your voice be heard and let them know how you are being directly impacted. So that is coming up on August the 10th in Eagle Pass. And then, of course, we also have the upcoming Border 911 event. That's going to be August the 27th in Houston. I will be sharing the stage. I'll be on a panel, an information panel. So you'll get to see little old me live and in person, but then you will also get to see some other much more bigger names than myself, like Tom Holman, General Flynn, Victor Avila will also be there, several, Jason Jones, several others, and you guys can go to, I have that up, here it goes, border911.com to register for that. That is coming up on August 27th in Houston. And then, because anyone needs a reason to go to the Hill Country, Fredericksburg Tea Party, they are having their annual Boots and Barbecue fundraiser. Those are some amazing patriots. As a matter of fact, had encountered a lot of the Angela and Matt Long and so many others just this last, I lost it. Here it is. Okay, there we go. While we were down at the Capitol testifying for the Education Committee, this is going to be Saturday, September the 17th. This is their annual fundraiser, and they have chosen Alliance for a Safe Texas to be the beneficiary of their 10% of their fundraising. So come out there, come see Chip Roy, Jason Jones, Wade Miller, and previous Senator Don Hepines as well will also be speaking. So again, if you need a reason to visit the Hill Country, I just gave you one. I don't need to be pressured too hard, but come on out there and support Fredericksburg Tea Party. You can go to fredericksburgteaparty.org/events to purchase your tickets for that. So a lot that you guys can be doing. And then of course, go to the Take Action tab. Go there on the securetheborder.us, find ways to get active, engaged, and involved. And if you're able to donate to Alliance for a Safe Texas, we are a nonprofit 501c4. There's also a donate tab for that as well. But again, like and share the video, share the information, share the action items. I will see you guys down there at the border in Eagle Pass, August 10th, and in all those other great events. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed hearing Sheriff Wigington and everything that he had to say. So God bless Texas, and let's continue to do all that we can to secure our sovereign state border and save our sweet and precious Texas. God bless y'all. Y'all have a great night. Thank you. Tested for COVID.
Yes.
And I had to get a color-coded bracelet.
Yes, like the one I'm wearing.
Yes. And you know who else does that? It's the Mexican cartel. So,
Thank you for your time, and let's go, Brandon.